Today we're going to be doing the Zeolite container replacement on a Bosch dishwasher. Generally you're going to have to do this when you get the E07 error code. That's going to relate to a blockage in the Zeolite fan. Generally that blockage is going to be water. This can also cause an E15 leak detection error. When you're getting an E15, ensure it's coming from the Zeolite container, obviously, before you do this repair. So let's get started. First, we're going to remove the insulation from the dishwasher. This isn't really attached by anything other than a few plastic clips that you'll need to pry it out of, and then it'll come off as one big sheet. We're also going to go ahead and remove both the upper rack and our lower rack, and finally our lower spray arm. When you're receiving the E07 or E15 error codes, what can happen is it may be due to the spray arm. They can form a hole here in the bottom of them, causing an increase in pressure that is going to shoot straight towards our Zeolite chimney and fill our container. If this is the case, you're going to want to feel right here. You want to apply a good bit of pressure, because sometimes you won't notice there's a hole until your finger pops through it. If you do notice that hole, you will need to get this spray arm as well as the other parts for the Zeolite container. Removing the spray arm is fairly straightforward. We're going to remove 2 Torx screws at the bottom. To release our spray arm from the top brackets, take a small tool, get it wedged between the bracket and the spray arm, and pop it right out. To remove our rear bracket, you're essentially going to do the same thing. A small slim tool between the bracket and arm, and simply wedge it out of position. On both sides. Next, we're going to remove the filter. Very simple. You should be doing this fairly regularly to clean your filter, but counterclockwise turn and pops right out. Next, we can remove the feed arm. This will pop out from the bottom, and then we can pull the whole thing out. If you do have the defect, right here is where you're going to see it, on the right side of your feed arm. This will be a gaping hole. Again, you will want to press down. Sometimes it looks all right, but then once you apply pressure, you'll see that hole. Next, we're going to remove the vent cap for the air duct going to our Zeolite fan. This cap needs to be removed with a special tool. Do not use needle nose pliers, for instance, or screwdrivers to try to remove this. You will break its little fins. The tool you're going to want is the Bosch tub vent cap wrench. This is part number 00342189. Simply insert it over your fan blades. And unscrew it off of our air duct. After that, we're going to take care of the snorkel for the Zeolite container. This cap will simply pry straight up. This can be a bit of a pain. If you need to, get both hands, one under each side of the container, and kind of wiggle it up. As you see, just for me putting it back, it can really get stuck in there. You'll then use the nut wrench that will come with your new Zeolite container. This back shielded part of the wrench will face the back of the snorkel like so. Make sure it is nice and secured on that nut, and then simply spin it off. Now we're going to remove the outer shell of our door. You're going to want to open the door with your leg or something underneath it for it to rest on when you do this. And you'll have Torx screws going around the outer shell of the door, and these ones are going to be going into the control panel itself. As you're removing these screws, be mindful of the size. You're going to have shorter screws down on the shell and longer as you get up to the control board. As you remove the screws, you're going to be releasing that tension on the outer shell, and that's why you want something to be supporting it underneath the door. Also be mindful that this inner door is a lot lighter without its shell. You need to keep constant pressure on the inner door or it will spring right back up to the machine. Once you have all the screws out, your outer shell will pull up and fall away from the inner door. As you can see, you've got a lot of wires hooked up to your outer shell. To make this a lot easier, you're going to want to remove this control panel. This will simply pull right up and out of our outer shell, like so. You can then close your door, and this will just kind of hang out here. Next, we're going to remove our inner kick plate. These are going to be 2 screws, one on each side. These will also be Torx head screws. Once you've gotten the screws removed, do be mindful of how this is inserted. When you are removing it, you're going to need to get it right back in that position. This can just be pulled right out, and then your insulation strip you can pop out. Also be mindful of how this looks. Next, we're going to remove the rear retaining screws. These are also going to be 2, one on each side. After that, we're going to remove the Zeolite air duct from the side of the unit. This is the cap that we removed from the inside of the tub. That will release this duct, and it will simply pop out of the bottom. There's nothing retaining it to that bottom Zeolite fan. Make sure your gaskets are still set on the duct. You'll have one in the top and on the bottom, and they are looking good. Next, we're going to remove our door cable from the right side of the door. Get a good grip on that cable. Release tension from the door. Pop your top strap off, guide it through, and we're good. For this tab that our cable cycles through, this will need to be removed as well. You will pop this away towards the back of the dishwasher, and it will simply come right out. After that, we're going to remove our control board. We're going to start with our control board cover. This has a tab hidden right underneath it. You do have a little arrow guiding you. It does not do much good. You really just need to feel around until you find that tab. Then it will pull away. This is the tab you are looking for, so it's pretty deep in that cover. After that, we're going to remove the board itself. This is held down simply by this one single clip. This clip does not push in. Instead, you're going to wedge between the board and the case of the dishwasher to disengage that clip. Once you're clear, up, angle it a bit, and pull it on out from the base. Next thing we're going to do is disconnect our primary control board. Fairly self-explanatory. We've got a few connectors that are tabbed in. For this strip of connectors, you can have one of two things happen. Sometimes this plastic will open up to allow you to disconnect them and act sort of as a guide for when you're putting it back. If you need to replace this control board, if it got wet from a leak in the Zeolite, definitely take a picture of these controls before you unplug them. This white guide that the controls go through is removable. You'll be able to transfer this over to your new control board. On this model, this part simply pops up, taking all of the connectors with it. If you are replacing the board, this is how your new one will look. You have zero indication of where these connectors go. So keeping this white guide is incredibly important unless you want to make life very hard on yourself. On our other side, this guide does not pop out with the controls. So again, get a picture of how these controls are inserted and then just remove them individually and set your control board aside. After removing the control board, we are going to separate the front of the dishwasher from the cabinet. This is held in by a tiny metal nil on the bottom of our tub support here. Nothing you can do about that. Easiest way to separate these is actually bend the plastic part out while applying upwards force to the dishwasher until you have cleared that latch. Next, we're going to use a special tool to get into the base of this dishwasher. This is going to be Bosch part number 15000508. It will include an Irwin quick grip. This will be the pad for our quick grip. It will slide in just like that. You'll have two tub supports in this kit and also a mounting support for the quick grip. In order to jack up our tub from the base, we're going to take our quick grip retainer here. What we're going to want is the end of our rod to go right into that slot in the quick grip retainer. So we're going to tuck this away into this little spot that Bosch has made for us. Get the quick grip positioned, and you are going to have to give the tub a bit of force to get that properly under the base. Then a couple pumps to ensure the end of your rod is secured in its little catch down there. Once you have that secured, you can simply give it a few pumps. Make sure you are clearing the front of the dishwasher is clearing the base. You may need to give it a little help along a few times while you're jacking this up, but once you're clear, you are clear. Once we have our tub jacked up, we're going to go ahead and disconnect a few of these components down here. Starting with our Zeolite, simply grab the back of this big old plug and pull up. It will pop right out. And we're going to remove the Zeolite fan connector. All of these are simply tab connectors like we had on our control board. Then move on to the drain pump right here, same thing, tab connector. And then our circulation pump, same thing, tab connector. Once we have our components disconnected, we can get our wiring harness out of the way, up through the front of the dishwasher and clear up our side here. Once we get our wiring harness out of the way, we're going to go ahead and remove our Zeolite fan. This will simply pop right up. We have a little rubber nipple on the bottom, a hole for it in the base of the unit. Nothing else really retaining this. Once you pop it out, you will remove it from the hose going to the Zeolite container. Just like that. Normally, if you're getting the E07 error, this fan's going to be full of water. Generally, you'll see it. It'll look like a shadow on the bottom of the fan. There is no way to evacuate the water from this fan or the Zeolite container. When you remove this fan, do be prepared for a good bit of water to come flooding out of this hose. It is a good idea to have towels under the dishwasher. While Bosch's are sealed units, the water will get through this base, so do be prepared for that. Before removing our Zeolite container or bringing our tub down, we're going to go ahead and remove this support bar from the back. This just kind of sits here. Again, nothing really retaining it into the unit. You may have busted styrofoam on the support. I don't think I have ever seen one without busted styrofoam. Don't worry about that. We can just set this aside. Next, we're going to install our tub supports. We've got two of these. This is going to be our front support right here. For the front, we do have a little cubby for this to go, and it pops right where our front bracket falls into that hole there. Once we have our front support in place, we're going to hold this hinge right here as we release pressure on the quick grip using this lever on the top. As you do this, obviously, you're going to be feeling the pressure of this tub. Make sure you guide the hinge down onto its support. So gently release, hinge guided down. We can remove our quick grip. Our hinge is resting on the support. The rear support, I'm not entirely sure how Bosch intended this support to be used, but the most useful way I have found is to use this slit on the bottom of it to tuck into that cabinet, and then simply push the support until your tub is resting on it. Once we have our tub up and supported, we're going to remove the shield for the Zeolite before we remove the container itself. This shield is retained by a small clip in the back of it, about here under the Zeolite container. To remove it, you're merely going to pop it right out, lift up on your container, and your shield will come right out. Move our Zeolite, get a grip of the snorkel on top, bring your hose up, pull it out, and remove it from the base of the machine. This has been the disassembly of the Bosch Zeolite container. We will be back with part 2 on the reassembly, installing the new Zeolite container. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, leave us a like, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.